Celeste is honestly one of those games that already sets itself apart with amazing gameplay. But what really makes the game special overall is the fact that it has an incredibly meaningful message about mental health, depression, and really just any sort of self-doubt that you could have. It's a game that I find incredibly impactful for anybody that could be struggling or has struggled with anything like this in the past. And I would argue that's the majority of people. So that's what we're going to talk about in today's video. So go ahead and stick around as we talk about why you should care about Celeste. Starting this one off, I think it's important to detail the fact that both sides of the gameplay and the story in Celeste are very effective in both their own rights about what they're trying to do. But I wanted to kick it off first with a lighter subject, which is the gameplay. If you're into platformers, this is really like one of the better ones. It's an incredibly quick style though, you definitely have to think on your feet, and it doesn't really give you the time to just always think about the perfect path. You kind of just have to execute on the fly and think about what you're doing. What I really enjoy is the fact that it is simple in control though. You have a jump button, a dash button, and a grab button. The jump is pretty self-explanatory. The dash really gives you one dash per time that you touch the ground. And the nice thing is the visuals really give a nice touch on this one to let you know when you have another dash up. I think this is a really good design choice because it lets the player know without having to remember if they have their dash or not, because the hair color of the main character Madeline changes whenever you use your dash, and then restores whenever you touch the ground, making it super easy to know, do I have another double jump or am I screwed here? Lastly, the grab, pretty much what you'd expect. You grab onto a ledge, you have a little bit of stamina to be able to climb or hold on, and then you're gonna drop. But where the game really shines with all this is the fact that it is so simple, but you interact with the environment very well. There's lots of different power-ups, such as ones that give you an extra dash as soon as you dash through them. Environments that as soon as you latch onto it, it's gonna move and fling you over to another area. And just stuff like that in general. Every level really has its own gimmick, and will still borrow some elements from previous levels if it's effective in this new level. What I also love is the fact that the flow is emphasized here in this game. Similar to what I talked about in my Katana Zero video, if you miss a jump and you fail and die or whatever, you reset pretty much immediately so you can just take another stab at it, which is super important in games like this where it could be really frustrating if you have to go through quite a lot to get back to what you just tried to do, or just what you attempted. I also appreciate that in totality, this game really isn't super long, meaning that there's not really any sections of it that I could argue drag. I think each level is unique and fun in its own right. It just gets the interesting bits and it doesn't really have any filler in it to make it to where it feels like it's just padding to make the game longer. So if you're into platformers at all and you haven't played this game, honestly, I think this is one of the better ones you could pick up. It's definitely one of my favorites in the genre. But again, what really sets this game apart though is the fact that its story is so good and impactful and realistic. And I mean, in certain ways, there's supernatural events that happen in this game, but I mean the approach that it tries to tell you on how to take your next step in your journey with depression or self-doubt or anything related is effective and, again, realistic in its expectations. So to effectively let you know what this actually means in the context of the story in general, throughout this game you're playing as Madeline, who's the main character that struggles with a lot of insecurity, self-doubt, depression, and really just anything you could really think in that sort of vein. Honestly, a lot of common things that you see in a lot of young adults now. Madeline tries to get out of the rut that she's been in lately by taking on a new adventure and challenge. And in this case, she goes to Celeste Mountain, telling herself that her goal is to climb the mountain and reach the summit. As she attempts to do so, she's met with supernatural events which actually manifests a piece of her to basically everything that she hates about herself. That being that self-doubt, that depression, and really everything wrapped up of what she despises about herself. And now, I think it is important for me to preface this and just let you know that I will be getting into some spoiler territory here on this video, just because I feel like it's how I can make the most effective point about what makes this message and game special. But just know, if you're worried about spoilers, you can click away. I will definitely make sure that you have plenty of warning before I jump into it. But note that this game really is special, and honestly, if you're looking for something to help you, if you're struggling with anything similar to what we've expressed in this video so far, there's something for you here in this game, I promise. So if it's important for you to experience it yourself, I would go ahead and click away, and maybe come back when you're done and you've played it. Alright, now that I've given some time, I think that it's important to talk about how this game handles and approaches, well, how you should handle and approach depression and these heavier topics about self-doubt and whatever else you could really imagine in that same vein. So I figured I'd preface this by first giving some stats. I think it's important to first realize that this is an issue and something that a lot of people do struggle with. Recent events have caused a massive jump in the percentage of people affected by depression. After the pandemic, the percentage of adults reportedly struggling with depression tripled in the US alone, from 8.5% of adults to 27.8%. And this number's only climbed, hitting a staggering 32.8% by 2021. This information was collected in a study by Boston University School of Public Health. And as we're still feeling the effects of the pandemic, these numbers are still climbing. It's hard to argue that it's not an issue when it affects a third of the population. And depression can cause a myriad of negative effects to your body and obviously your mental health, such as things like obviously feeling sadness and emptiness. It can cause insomnia, trouble with memory or decisions, loneliness, even risk of heart attacks, weight fluctuation, constricted blood cells, increased pain and sensitivity, fatigue, weakened immune system, and honestly more. And the worst and most serious of them all is a preoccupation with death and higher risk of suicide. With statistics this high, it's hard to argue that you haven't met somebody or experienced this stuff on your own, honestly. And so I think it's good to understand it. Honestly, my past experiences with the feelings of depression and hopelessness is what inspired my very first YouTube video. It's a topic that is important to me and I take very seriously. And what I appreciate about Celeste is the fact that it does as well. Oftentimes, a lot of people and a lot of media seem to expect that this is something you just beat and you just get over it. But it's not. You're still gonna have hard days, even when you get past the hard times. What I love is there is a part where Madeline decides to confront the part of herself that she hates, which symbolizes everything that, again, she despises about herself. And she tells that part of herself that she doesn't need her anymore, so she can just move on and she's done and she can be happy now. This causes the part of herself to throw Madeline down to the base of the mountain, negating all of your progress to the game so far. It's not until after a while of Madeline deciding she wants to give up and then being encouraged by other characters in the game that she needs to pursue this, that she confronts herself again and understands that no, she can't just ignore that part of herself, which leads to honestly a pretty fun boss fight. And after you end up winning, then you learn that you need to live with yourself. Sure, you need to confront what is unwell about yourself, but you can't ignore it. What I love is that this being told in the video game format is what makes this so special. Quick little shout out to a viewer of mine and a subscriber, Dirkus Mightier. We had a good discussion on my last video, the Katana 01, talking about why that story is so effective because it's told in the video game format. If it's something that was told in a movie or a show, it would totally fall on deaf ears. It wouldn't hit as hard. And that's a similar case here to Celeste. But after Madeline accepts herself and understands that she needs to work with who she is rather than against who she is, you get an in-game power-up, which I know sounds cheesy, but it changes Madeline's hairstyle, which visually lets you know that now you have 2 dashes before you touch the ground. And from there, you fly through all of what you've been through much faster and much easier because Madeline is now more in tune with who she is and accepting herself for who she is. And again, I know this is cheesy, but honestly, that's one of the biggest things I think about these messages is the fact that you don't really beat these thoughts. And you can't just ignore a piece of yourself and expect that you're just gonna be fixed and better. You need to learn to accept and understand who you are to be able to move forward. And once you stop getting in your own way, that's when you'll truly succeed. And that's not saying that this is an easy approach to have. But again, I love that it's realistic. I just love and appreciate that Celeste reminds us that we all have something we're struggling with. And it's better to be honest with yourself, accept it and address it rather than ignore it. And I know this is a very brief summary of a really heavy topic, but honestly, I feel like it's that message, along with the quick and effective gameplay that makes this such a complete package, and honestly is why I believe you should care about Celeste. I want to wrap up this message and the heavier topic by saying it's incredibly important that if you're struggling with anything similar to what we talked about in this video, please don't be afraid to pursue and ask for help. This is the most important lesson that I learned when I was struggling with depression. Accept other people's help. Know that when you have people close to you that offer it, they really do mean it. Take them up on it. I felt embarrassed and ashamed for what I was feeling for a long time and didn't even want to admit that I was feeling those emotions or that they existed. The quicker that you accept it, the quicker you'll learn to work through this and to work with yourself. It's impossible to work on something if you refuse to accept that it even exists. While it will be harder to work through these things after accepting that they are there, it is so much more worth it than just struggling with it and feeling it day by day and doing nothing about it. And I know this one was a lot heavier, but honestly, it's something that, of course, again, I'm pretty passionate about because I've experienced it myself. So I just wanted to say thank you for sticking through it. If it seemed preachy, I'll get off my soapbox now. But really though, thank you for watching this one. I really appreciate all the people who have been supporting me lately with my videos. It means a lot. I apologize this video was a little bit late. I got really sick this last week, still feeling the effects a little bit, but I want to make sure I got the video out there. But if you enjoyed this video, please let me know in the comments below. Or maybe if you have anything to add or you think there's something that I missed. And please send this video to a friend that you think might be struggling and might need to hear this message. Maybe if you found this video helpful too, consider subscribing or leaving a like. It really helps me a lot. But that's it for this one, so I'll see you all in the next video.